Hi everyone. Today I'm going to cover the topic of well and septic. What to look for when you're a buyer and what to look for and what to be ready for as a seller. So when you are buying a house that has either a well or a septic, we'll start with septics. The first thing that you're going to do is put in a well and septic contingency that says, and you won't always do this depending on what your agent recommends, depending on the situation with the house, but generally speaking, you'll build in a septic contingency that requires the seller to have the septic pumped and inspected prior to closing. So like I said, that can be negotiable. Sometimes the buyer takes care of that. It all depends on your situation with your buy, but generally speaking, that's a very common practice. And what that means is that the seller is going to have the well, or the septic, like I said, pumped, so everything will be cleared out and inspected. They'll look at all the key factors to the septic, such as the distribution box, the septic tank, and a lot of times, if they can't find certain aspects to it or certain parts to it, they'll note that on the report. But what you want to see is that that septic has been pumped entirely and is functioning the way it should, and that report should say that. Depending on the area that you're in watershed areas, certain companies and certain inspectors have to come in and inspect to make sure that the septic is meeting the requirements and the qualifications and criteria of that watershed for the safety of the lake and the water source. But generally speaking, they're going to look at the size of the tank, if it's undersized, if it's adequate size, and make sure all of that is taken into consideration. So that's the first thing with the septic. And as a seller, we'll oftentimes recommend prior to listing that you have that pumped and inspected prior to listing so that we can attach it to the MLS and buyers can see that everything is functioning as it should be. The next piece is the well. What is tested and what is looked for in the well usually includes a potability test, which means is it drinkable? They'll test for different elements in the test, so things like E. coli, lead, nitrates, nitrites. Those will be included. FHA will oftentimes require all those things be included, whereas a conventional or cash deal may not require that, but you still might want to have that done to make sure that you account for everything when it comes to your water source. They'll also test for flow to see how fast that water source, that well, is coming into the house and the gallons per minute, how often it regens and how often it takes to fill back up. So that's the element when it comes to the well. And again, usually it's potability and flow with the well. A report will be done, be provided to the buyer prior to closing so that everything is checked out and approved of, and everything is basically to the satisfaction of the company, but also the buyer and the seller. If you have any questions about well or septics, please don't hesitate to reach out. Again, these aren't always necessary when it comes to all transactions, but are very helpful. And as a seller, it's always good to get ahead of them before you list.